Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Better Opinion. Happy holidays from us, the most cheerful people you know. We're definitely in a good mood, and nothing is wrong. I am once again your host, Kevin, joined once again by my co-host, Manser. Manser, happy holidays. I don't think I actually know what holidays you or your family celebrate, but let's assume they're good.
It's just Crimbus.
It's just Crimbus.
Yeah, it's Merry Crimbus.
Just Merry Crimbus. Yeah, I mean, I did not grow up Christian, but we've celebrated Christmas every year my entire life, so
Is that what it's for?
that's what they tell me.
I thought we just pushed a fat man down a chimney. And we beat him up for presents, right?
Yeah, you just go find a fat man, you dress him up in red, you shove him down the chimney. If he's still alive, you beat him until presents fall out. Merry Christmas.
What, is that guy supposed to be like Jesus Christ or something? He really put on weight, really.
Yeah, me too. Well, this is great. This is a great way to talk about the holidays. I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hey, we're
don't
not
sue me.
sponsored.
Don't sue me.
Like, hold on.
Hold on, say don't sue me. But we're here to talk about the greatest gift the holidays could give us.
Yeah, last time I beat Jesus Christ, it's so much RAM.
So much RAM fell out of him. I couldn't believe it. He was chock full of this stuff.
So much that he forgot a lot of stuff, but
he even had a graphics card up in there.
He even had a graphics card, but this time, not as much.
Not as much. I've got his battered body in my living room, and barely any consumer electronics have fallen out.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Jesus should really consider reviving again this time.
Come back, but with more RAM.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
You died for our sins, but this isn't good enough, man.
Well, maybe he can die for the sins. Man, we are so fucked. Like that is the level of blasphemy. It's a good thing that I don't believe in any of it. But we are here. We are talking about, of course, the RAM and graphics cards, and how we really rammed it in there for the holidays.
All the ramifications.
Ramifications. Yeah, so, you know about this. I know about this. I assume the viewer doesn't, but if they don't, a lot of consumer electronics companies, specifically computer parts manufacturers, so Micron, NVIDIA, and others, have either been dialing back or completely leaving the consumer electronics or consumer computer parts business.
Honestly, I would be surprised if people didn't know. It is the first time, I think, in a long time that I've actually heard from many people, even like mainstream media, about RAM.
Right.
Like, who knew what RAM was a month ago?
I don't think most people did. I mean, that whole download more RAM thing is like a really old internet joke, but that's because it worked, because people didn't know what the fuck RAM was. They knew they needed it.
Yeah.
They needed more memory. That's what their computer said, but they didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, but recently, in the past month or so, because Sam Altman decided to do something very special and fuck everyone over.
Well, that's what OpenAI just does.
Yeah, it's really good at
doing
doing
their business strategy.
Don't worry, Gen AI is coming.
It's coming. We will have it soon. And
they're edge computing it so much, edge computing to the limit, so much RAM for all that edge computing. It's edging, so it's gonna come. It's gonna come some point.
I'm glad you made the joke, because I'm sitting here smiling hard, because I was just thinking this is an edging and ejaculation joke, and I'm here for it. I'm ready for it to come.
Well, it's not coming
You're
yet.
edging me talking about edging.
But it's coming sometime.
Soon, yeah. Happy holidays. No. This really is the gift that keeps on giving.
This is what Crimbus is all about.
It really is, yeah. It's when people come together. Okay, so enough about coming, or the second coming. We need to talk more about
the fifth coming.
The fifth coming, yeah, the DDR5. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, the people are making jokes about it. In Escape from Tarkov, they changed so you can find computer parts in the game. You use them for stuff.
Yeah.
They changed RAM, so items do have a color coding for what they are.
Yeah.
Besides what they can do, it's also certain items are rarer, and if it's a rarer item, it has a purple background. RAM was changed from a blue background to a purple background,
Yeah.
and then its value when sold to a vendor was way increased, and then a bunch of barter trades for really valuable items were added, where you exchange RAM for these really valuable items, which was a pretty funny joke about a real crisis, which is this issue of all these companies leaving the consumer manufacturing sector or reducing it to try to meet these data center demands.
And it couldn't have come at a more perfect time. Crimbus. This is around the time where people would want to buy computers. And not only that, Windows 11 requirements makes it so that a lot of people want to upgrade now.
Yeah.
Or have to upgrade now. And wonderful for them. They probably can't afford it anymore.
They can't afford it. I wonder if Microsoft's going to get pissed about this because they want people to use Windows 11 and now they can't.
I don't know, because they're in a weird spot where they want you to use their AI, but they care more about their servers to care about making Windows 11 good.
You know, so from an investor standpoint, these companies are more valuable than they've ever been. I mean, my portfolio has doubled, right? I also fully intend to sell all of my AI stocks pretty soon. Because they are going to crash. We talked about this in a past episode. Like, they're all just exchanging the same $5 billion. They're just like passing it in a circle.
Yeah.
I think this is a really smart short-term business move and a really bad long-term business move for these manufacturers. But the thing that I think I'm really just unhappy about is for the consumer. A lot of people cannot afford these parts that, remember back in the day, you could buy when they came out with the 1000 series graphics cards, you could buy two 1060s, SLI them, and that was what, $400?
Yeah, it was like it was very cheap to buy.
It was $200 per card, and you could then SLI them, and they'd be like super, super powerful.
Yeah, the 10 series felt like the biggest jump in graphics in a very long time. And it feels like things have not really gone up from there.
Well, it's blinded by, I don't want to say something like blinded by greed because that sounds like a judgment, but it is blinded by income. When I was still a product manager a couple of years ago, I did that for quite a while before I decided I needed a break. I ran into this with executives all the time, right? When something's working, it does. I ran into a very interesting thing. Without talking too much about that business, I ran into a thing where the business was growing rapidly. An event had happened which created a massive amount of business that our competitors couldn't fulfill. So not only were we working with our own already customers, but new customers were coming going, my current provider cannot fulfill these needs and I need it. And so our business was growing rapidly.
Yeah.
They did a ton of hiring, a ton of expanding, and everyone was excited. Everyone was like, oh my God. And I said, they kept adding projections that were just huge. And I said, this isn't sustainable. This isn't gonna, 4 years from now, we're not gonna be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
They said, we know. I said, well, you don't know. These numbers don't match the idea that once this is over, it's over. They kept insisting that they were projecting for a limited future while behaving in a infinite growth future. Yeah. Anyway, years went by and the business disappeared. And everyone was like, oh my God, where'd all our business go? Like, we still had the customers we had, but we weren't growing anymore. Why weren't we growing? We couldn't meet targets because all of our targets they weren't projections of how much we will make from our customer base. They were projections based on growth, and we never hit them. Nobody was hitting them. We had a year where 0 people except me, because my product specifically was in a growth phase because it was new, met their targets. Nobody. And that's not because they didn't do a good job. It's because the business wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it's not that the people at the top are stupid. That's what people want to say. Executives are stupid. CEOs are stupid. No, it's that they see lots of money. They see big numbers and they go, it's because I'm great. And I'm going to be great forever.
It's like, what's that saying? Your mouth was too big for your stomach, or
your eyes were too big for your stomach?
Your eyes were too big for your stomach.
Yeah, I think it's more like if you're at a buffet and you think that the cook never goes home. Nobody ever stops cooking.
It feels like the same thing is happening for the AI business. They keep coming out with more and more, more billion parameter models, but it doesn't feel like things get better, and it's now cannibalizing itself. I think the coolest thing that's happened in AI is this like recursive model thing that's 10 times smaller than anything else, but is very specific and is able to reason. But that's kind of getting off topic. In terms of this, it feels like there are a lot of growth minded like things happening, and also a lot of things are starting to just fail at the same time. Windows is asking everyone to upgrade to Windows 11, and the requirements that they're asking for is causing it so that either large businesses will have to order a bunch of new laptops, or they'll have to pay a premium to get updates.
You know what's weird? Windows 11 wants a bunch of requirements, but if you buy a new computer that has lower requirements than that, it comes preloaded with Windows 11. I have a little mini box that I use as a server for multiplayer video games.
Yeah.
And it has lower hardware than my PC, but Windows 11 believes my PC couldn't handle Windows 11. Which is fine. I'm never upgrading, but that's not the point.
I think it's specifically TPM. I may be wrong about that. I don't think it's specifically the specifications of your computer. They just want the trusted platform. There's this thing on your motherboard. They want it works for their AI, to make their AI work. That's why they want it. It's not for like anything specific, security reason or whatever. They want this thing that enables their AI to work.
I really do think that it is a strange thought process that everyone higher up is going through, where we're trying to, because everyone talks about this, and I don't want to get too deep into this idea, but we talk about automating away jobs, right? We're trying to, we're going to program everything by putting a prompt in. We're going to make all our art by putting a prompt in. We're going to make movies by putting a prompt in. And then I go, all right, hear me out. I understand. Right? If you can, let's say it was good, because right now the things that these AI put out is not good enough to replace a person. Every company that's done that has seen a drop in quality, and then they just go, I don't understand why we're failing. And they are failing. If you think that they're not, you're not looking at the numbers. Every time these companies do this, they lose money. But ignoring that, let's say it was all perfect. What's our plan when no one has a job? And I don't want to hear a boomer talk, because a boomer's just going to be like, well, just work harder. Shut up. That's not the answer to the problem. If there is no work, what do we do? Everybody's cutting jobs to make more money.
But you have to have people who spend money on your thing.
Someone has to buy your product, right? The problem with leaving the consumer market is that consumers are the bottom of an economy. They're the thing that holds it all up, right? Even if your primary customer is big business, so if you sell to big businesses, that big business, maybe they sell to businesses too, but they have to sell to smaller businesses. Big business can't support big business who supports big business. Someone has to move down the food chain. Someone has to support smaller businesses, and then those smaller businesses sell to consumers. It has to. An economy doesn't work if someone doesn't produce a product that eventually other people buy. And if you get rid of all of the consumers, and even if that were possible, even if you could have an economy where it was all just businesses paying businesses, then what happens? Does everyone else just die?
Well,
is it just a bunch of computers all sending money to each other's bank accounts with no people?
Everyone eats the Luigi mushroom, and all of a sudden we all have green hats and like pullovers, and it's like we just go at it. It's like I think that's what's gonna happen.
But you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I've also thought similarly. This is a weird trajectory we're going through, that if they're successful, we create a weird Ouroboros. But it's like, what does this look like? Because even like Elon Musk is saying some shit about like, I want Star Trek, but of course that's not going to happen with what he's supporting.
Not with the way he's doing things. Yeah, here's the thing. If some billionaire said, well, my goal is to no longer worry about money. My goal is to make a replicator. And the replicator will give you whatever you want. And we're going to have to find a new way to exist.
Yeah.
But then when people go, well, that's never going to happen. Well, it technically, if you could figure out the technology, then
Yeah.
sure, it could happen. But it's you. But you're not doing that. You're not trying to create the federation. You're trying to create. You're still trying to be a capitalist.
It's yeah, because the problem is we're in a society.
We're in a society.
We're in a society that kind of bubbles up. The problem is all the bubbles are kind of staying up there and they're not popping.
Well, they're going to. They always pop eventually.
They always pop eventually, but the problem is it feels like it keeps like we're in this weird cycle where that keeps happening. We have so much power in businesses, but we kind of forget. It's like why don't we work for the average consumer? Because if we work to help consumers more, everyone benefits.
Yeah, it goes up the chain because you need consumers. Actually, this is here's the thing. It's actually already happening. This is going to sound like a crazy conspiracy, but it's not because it's just actively happening already. Mm-hmm. We live in a super interconnected time where everybody's like the economy is sort of one big thing. Everybody's feeding off of everyone. But as these problems get worse, there's two things that are happening. One's political, where people with different just sort of ways they want to live their life are struggling to match up, and that's where we get these conflicts. Is these people want to live this way, these people want to live this way, and they both think that each other should live that way because they're stuck in the same room together. So now people are starting to move away and be like, okay, well, I'll go live in this room, you go live in that room, and then that's fine. But the economy still keeps us really interconnected. What I think is probably going to happen is this doomed trajectory is going to continue to go. And it's going to blow up the economy. I think when these bubbles do finally pop, when we realize that like you can't build data centers forever, so who's your consumer? Well, I've already left the consumer market, so who's buying from me? Because there's no more data centers to build. You can build 10 data centers a day, but eventually you're going to go, we don't need any more data centers, and maybe you'll build one or two here and there, but this volume will never continue to exist.
Yeah.
And I have a point here. I think that the end result is going to be that people, because it's already happening, people have been going, there are various small groups of people who have said, this isn't working. And they've literally picked themselves up and just moved to the middle of fuck nowhere and like just started living, like building small communities that are self-sufficient. And they're not completely self-sufficient yet, but like that's their end goal, is to just almost entirely leave the economy because they have no other choice.
Yeah, we kind of do have a lot of the technology to do that, don't we? You don't really need to be part of a grid if you can figure out in your area how to create like self-sustaining energy from like the sun or from like a windmill.
Yeah,
it's like we've gotten pretty far with that because we're trying to replace oil and then we're not trying to replace oil and then we're
Yeah, the ever-evolving door of lobbyists who are trying to keep us using a limited resource.
It feels like we're getting to this weird breaking point where people are finally getting tired. Not just the people who are already tired. We're getting tired of bullshit because I don't want to get too far into politics, but a lot of people who have been clamoring for a certain viewpoint are now in that world. And I don't know if they're as happy as they thought they would be. I'm not quite sure.
No, there are a lot of people who have buyer's remorse. And I don't even mean that in a malicious way. I mean that they didn't really realize what they were buying into.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at this on a macro scale, the politics, the just the way that society is functioning right now is that it's reaching a boiling point where the normal person, the majority of people, simply can't actually exist in the environment that's been created. I can't, listen, I don't want to talk about the price of eggs, right? Because that was like a political talking point, but it's a good item to talk about for the sake of what I'm saying. If someone says, I need eggs, I feed my family eggs every day, it's an important staple part of our meal, but its price has tripled, I could afford to, if I bought a piece of shit land in the middle of nowhere and got chickens, the cost of caring for those chickens is actually very low because chickens can mostly subsist off of the land. You only really need to supplement their feed for nutrition and during the winter. And if that's the case, well, chickens are very inexpensive, but they produce a lot of eggs just by existing.
Yeah.
Chickens naturally just produce eggs. You can get a lot. I know I've had them before. You can get a lot of eggs from like 3 chickens, enough to feed your family daily. And if that is the case, you start to do the math and you start to go, well, I have no choice. I need to find a way for this to work for me. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to do this, but you've already got it. You've already got people who are going, yeah, we're trying to just create like our own community away from all this because we don't really have another option with the way things are going. And I think what's going to end up happening is that these companies and the way that we're allowing things to go is going to cause sort of a collapse, right? The bubble is going to pop. People aren't going to have jobs. They're not going to have income, and businesses aren't going to have consumers. And so things are going to have to fall apart, but they're going to kind of like build back up. And they're probably going to build back up from these already existing small bubbles of people who have already sort of figured out, well, we kind of got to reset. I'm not saying back to the Stone Age, by the way. This isn't like the world's going to collapse and we're all going to kill each other with spears. Like, it's just that right now we've created we're slowly working towards a system where we have 2 options. Either the idea of universal basic income, the idea of the federation, the idea of everything, there is no money. Instead, it's just people get what they need and our goals change completely to a more utopian viewpoint, or one that continues to be individualistic that completely sort of destroys this Ouroboros, and has to somewhat give up commerce to be self-sufficient. Those are really the only way to resolve this in its current direction if nothing stops it before then.
Yeah, because it does seem like this experiment, at least the American experiment, because it really was an experiment, is we're kind of finding another weird parameter to it, that if we go on this trajectory right now where companies have so much power that they find it in their best interest to no longer take part in society itself. In fact, so much so that they no longer kind of care about how people around them are caused. Fracking, even these new AI data centers are causing like issues in the areas they're in.
Massive energy costs, affecting groundwater. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We get to an interesting point is like society may just have to change. Mm-hmm. It's more inevitable in a way. I'm not quite sure if I'm happy or upset that it had to take this long for us to reconsider things.
I don't like that it has to happen in my lifetime. I don't like that I have to be the one to experience it.
I wish it would. I wish my grandfather had to go through this, and I get to
just live in the cool Star Trek future.
Yeah, and it's weird because we kind of do have a lot of everything we need. Mm-hmm. It's like we don't even need, like we talked about like RAM shortage and all of that, but we don't really need new phones. We don't really need new computers. Don't get me wrong, I'm a gamer and I want the new games, but the computers we had not 10 years ago are already pretty fast.
I mean, here's the truth. My computer that you helped me build that I'm still using is half of its parts are from an old computer because the only thing is there were a couple items I needed to upgrade, specifically the processor. I'm still using my 2080, and it's fine. There's no game I can't run.
Yeah. Because the only reason that we're upgrading is because, one, Windows is like making people upgrade. And why is Windows making people upgrade? Because they're again a business who has found that it is in their best interest for some reason.
They believe it's in their best interest.
They believe it's in their best interest, or maybe a shareholder really wants it to be in their best interest for them to implement AI and make people use AI in their...
Well, AI is just blockchain. And I don't mean that in like they're identical. They're completely different, but I mean it culturally. Remember, there was a time period where you could just add the word blockchain to your corporate name and your stock prices would go up.
Because people really are very scared of not getting that like extra money. There's like all that...
People love trends. They love things that are popular and viral.
Yeah. it's kind of like you're in the know, is like you're hip with the kids and stuff like that. Also, the potential that maybe you're going to hit all that money. It was the same for like I think the .com bubble. I
Oh
think
yeah, but you think about this, right? Because what's happened to I think blockchain is interesting. A couple years ago, it's all anyone talked about. Do you hear about it now?
No.
What happened to the people's their apes?
it's
All my apes gone. All apes are frozen. Right? What happened to them? What happened to the bored apes?
I heard of one thing. It's like they stole from like I think the Louvre, and they said, "Don't worry, guys, we still have the NFTs."
Yeah, but you get what I mean,
Yeah.
right? Like the reality is that it's a trend.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think I'm an optimist at my core, which is funny considering it's from me, because I think externally people think I'm a pessimist. I'm not. I'm actually an optimist.
It's crazy. Grunch 1 and Grunch 2 are.
Yeah. Well, despite being quite the Grunch, not Grinch to be clear, Grunch. I am very much an optimist, and I think that I'm just a realistic optimist, and I think that what's going to happen is I think that truly intelligent AI is actually a good thing for the future.
Yes.
I think it's and I always run into this because I think that we've watched too much horror media.
Yeah.
You know, we watched too much Terminator. I don't think that any AIs we create are going to want to wipe out humanity. What's going to happen is I think that on one hand, a true artificial intelligence is going to be very beneficial. I think what'll end up really happening is a mixture of this sort of connected economy will sort of somewhat fall apart. I think there will be people who go, I don't want to say living off the land, that sounds very hippie, but I do think the idea of like rural communities being a little more self-sufficient, or not even rural, but just more communities become a little bit more local. You know what I mean? Like farm to table probably will become a necessity rather than like a statement, right? Cities will have to somewhat rely on things that are a little bit more local, because I think that just as everything falls apart, we're going to have to, as you said, sort of reimagine. And I think AI will be a big part of that.
Yeah.
I think using artificial intelligences to help run these communities will actually become quintessential.
Because it's not even just the things that we talked about there, like making things hard. It's social media as an idea is also kind of making it hard for society to function. I'm not even like boomer is like, oh, everyone's on TikTok, but also everyone's attention is focused on this one thing. That's not really healthy in general for a society to function, is if everyone is focused on crap all the time, and that's all that they could look at.
Well, and everyone's focused on social media has made everyone want to be the big cheese. You know, everybody wants to be Elon Musk, you know, which he has a lot of money. He's not very happy. But the reality is, you know, that didn't used to be that way. Even the richest men in the world were not nearly this rich, and a lot of companies really focused on the well-being of their employees with the idea of, you know, one day my best employee is going to replace me, right? And the reason they did that is because that's actually self-sustaining. Right now, we live in a very non-self-sustaining system, and we're gonna have to convert to one that finds a way to sustain itself.
The idea of legacy is very interesting here, because what do people consider a legacy nowadays? Is becoming a big TikTok star really a big legacy? Because I think back in the day, it's like, what is who wrote Tom Sawyer?
Was it Lewis Carroll? No,
Lewis Carroll. Well, the people who were like the greats.
I'm looking at Mike because he's the English major. So
I don't remember. I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
Jamie, look that up.
The
Twain.
Mark
Twain.
Twain. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I said Lewis Carroll. Why did I say Lewis Carroll?
He's the only author you know the name of.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Yeah. Because think about Mark Twain. Mark Twain is I feel like a well-known figure. Is it the Twain Prize? The people who are authors kind of look up to Mark Twain and like want to be writers similar to him. He is a classic American literature guy who's like, his name will go down for like decades.
Right.
But like after we're dead, we'll still know Mark Twain. Who knows who the fuck Ninja is?
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. whenever I look at, because I do my other YouTube channel for a long time until my house flooded, I did streaming. People would always ask me, like, what is it that you want, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, I think that let me talk about it in the world of streaming for a second. In the world of streaming, there's sort of a fake humility, right? Most people would say, I don't really want to be a ninja. And in their hearts, that's what they wanted, right? They want to be huge. They want to be massive. And what I used to say is I'm going to be honest with you. I want to do this in a way that I find entertaining. These are the things, these are the aspects of this that I like. I want those things, and I want those things, and I want to be big enough that I make enough money that I can keep doing those things, but I never want to become so big that I lose those things. And that's not a humility thing. It's that I, as a person, my whole life, have always viewed what my objectives were around what's the kind of life I want to live. I don't really want to be famous to be famous, but if fame brought me the lifestyle that I want, then I want it, right?
Yeah.
So when I was streaming, my goal was to grow, but I really wanted to keep because what I really like is that when I streamed, I always felt kind of like, if people were engaged, it felt like kind of like when my friends and I were kids and we'd all sit on the couch and we couldn't really all buy video games. So we would get a new video game and then hang out together and play it on. So we loved co-op games, but sometimes we'd buy single player games and like one of us would play and the others would like backseat, and that was really, really, really fun. So I liked streaming when it felt that way. And so my sort of thing was, if I could keep this vibe, so I don't want to be ninja because then you lose that vibe. I want to keep this vibe, but I want to be big enough that it's self-sustaining, right? That's how I kind of view anything I do in life, right? So if someone said, oh, like you want to become a big YouTuber, right? You want to become Markiplier? I'm like, I love Mark. I do. He's probably one of the only YouTubers I've grown up with. And I was like, I could probably meet him and we'd like get along, right? I don't really want to be him because we don't have the same life goals, right? But I would like to have enough income that this thing I enjoy, which is making these videos, making this podcast, whatever, was not just something that I could do when convenient, but something I could do consistently and have it support my lifestyle. And I think that people forget that. They forget that, like, they're caught up in the idea of, I want to be ninja. Yeah. Right? I want to be famous. I want to be cool. They don't think, I want to live my life in a certain way, and this is how I achieve that. And that's why you get these people who are really unhappy later, right? They become really famous, and then they get depressed. And it's like, well, it didn't lead. They never actually were doing it with a mindset of like, what's the life I want to live? They were doing it with like, oh my God, I'm getting so much dopamine from being acknowledged. Oh shit, now everything's really stressful. Or I'm no longer growing, or I'm not as famous as I was. I'm in a holding pattern. I've fallen off. There's all this ego.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I see ninja and all of these like trends, and in my mind, it's not a goal that feels worthwhile. It feels like something that is it's like I understand why people would want it, but it does not excite me.
Right.
I think in my life I want to do something that I feel really proud of because I've gone through life in a very interesting way. My parents are immigrants, but also because of like reasons, they haven't really given me much of their culture as much as other people have. So in a way, I've come into America born very neutral. A lot of the stuff that I know, I kind of learned myself. All of the computer stuff, I'm very self-taught because of solving issues. And I find I like a lot of the classics. And what the classics gave me is a very nice feeling of this is great. These are like the thoughts I'd like to have. I'd like to create something as great as this. I want to create something that I'd be really proud of having. That's what I want. In my mind, that's legacy. It's like my life has it is not just one accumulation, but just that I, in my lifetime, am able to create things that really make it feel like it was worth it.
Yeah. When you look back and you go, that was worth my time.
Yeah.
I understand. I actually can relate. I'm not as much of a the same kind of creator that you are, but I feel similarly in that when people ask me what, because I told you what sort of life goals are, but what is it that I like about these things? I as you know, I streamed the other night, but it wasn't on my channel because it's, I have this tradition with my friend where I go on his channel and he has this thing where it's a cringe competition. You post cringe. Can you make us cringe? I only ever come on for the Christmas special, right? So it had been a while since I streamed, but I was talking to him after. I said, man, that was really fun. And I forgot what I really liked most, which is I just really like when I know that other people were entertained, right? Because it's not like we had huge viewership. We never do. It's because he streams really late because of his life. But people were laughing. People were having a good time. And to me, if someone watches this, if someone watches another channel, when they say, when I hear laughter, when I hear I really liked that, if I hear that it was thought-provoking, that's what I like. And it's not because I need you to like buy into my beliefs or agree with me or whatever, or I need to be like super cool, like everyone think I'm a cool guy. It's that at my core, I like to entertain. And so in my ideal world, I would be remembered for the entertainment that I provided.
Yeah. I agree. And it goes back to a quote. I think it's A.W. White or someone. I don't know who said this quote, but it is something along the lines. I'm gonna paraphrase because my memory is horrible. It's like, what is a life without doing something for another human being? And I think one of the greatest things you can do is entertain them, because storytelling is one of the oldest traditions known to man, and becoming a great storyteller is, I think, a great gift in any field.
Yeah.
It will help you in anything, and it's a very generalized way of like describing more specific things, but it's also, I think, a great gift to be able to articulate what you mean in a way that is both entertaining and informative. I would like to, in my life, get to a point where I could become a great storyteller in whatever I do, and it becomes worthwhile to at least help one person. That would be great.
Yeah, that's a really great way to look at it. And I think I feel very similarly. And I think that sort of goes back to, in a weird way, it wraps around to what we're talking about, because the core issue is that the way that everything is running right now, it's not really thinking about other people. And I don't even mean in sort of like because I think we've gotten caught up in the politics. I don't mean you and me, but I mean society is so, you see it online. Everyone's arguing, oh, should we all be communists? Why do I have to take care of that guy? And I go, because at the end of the day, the goal of our species has always been to perpetuate our species. And if we reach a point where we're not caring for the rest of our people, what are we even doing?
Yeah, I'm very confused about the goals of what we're doing, because it feels like the antithesis to,
like, you have all the money in the world. You got it. What now?
Yeah, it feels like the antithesis of what we're great at. What is the greatest strength of humanity? It's the knowledge that we kind of pass on to other people.
Well, it's the knowledge and the things.
Yeah.
Every generation leaves behind something that, well, except the Dark Ages, they left behind less, but
because like who do we think are like the greatest in our society? The most important is like the doctors, the teachers, the people who kind of like help other people. These are the people that
we venerate firefighters, we venerate doctors, we venerate teachers, yet we don't take care of them.
Yeah, the essential workers, the ones we screw over the most. It is a weird place we're in, and it feels like AI is, I hope, the tipping point. I hope this is the worst we'll get, and that we'll kind of understand something so we can turn around. I think
there is. I think there's a future where AI is a good thing, that true AI, not whatever this bullshit is, but like real artificial intelligences are helping to create a reality that is good for all. I think that that's a realistic future.
It already kind of is. It's being used in the medical field right now. It's like there's a thing called folding at home that used to like be the primary way that we'd like try to discover how diseases work. What you'd have is a bunch of people. This is like the opposite side of the coin for Bitcoin mining. You could mine on your GPU like structures in order to help medical research. The AI is kind of taking over a lot of that work because all it is like you need raw compute to just go through and like figure out all these different permutations. It's doing the work. It's just that a lot of the focus is not on where all the good could be. It's on all this bullshit about like it's the search engine, like replacing Google with this thing is like, oh, it's like you want your own AI assistant or whatever. Everything needs an assistant, but like,
well, everyone's trying to turn something into a product.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Everyone's trying to make money. So long as the end goal is the line goes up, the decisions will always be made with that in mind. Sometimes line going up means providing something beneficial. But right now, we live in a world that isn't. And it doesn't help that right now we're also ruled by people who are part of the problem. So one of the balancing acts throughout history has always been with our leadership wanted things a certain way. The government would regulate in a way that reeled that in. But we go through these cycles of letting the bad guy take over and, you know, the guy who wants things to just be money, 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 money. And then that makes it so they enable all the others to do that. And people, I've talked about this before, people in big business are very unique creatures because they can be I've run into this, my own manager would be the most friendly person, very much concerned with other people's well-being, votes in a way that is for other people. In their day-to-day life, they always make decisions that are kind to others. And then they'll do the most heinous shit as a business decision. And they'll go, yeah, that's business. We have to think of the business. And I remember saying to him once, I said, businesses aren't people. You actually don't need to think of the business. You need to think about the way it affects people. And this decision is a bad one for the people. You have made a bad decision. And he didn't know what to say to that. He was actually he was sort of lost because he couldn't comprehend a world where there was a morally wrong thing with what he had done, even though what he did was morally wrong, justified through the idea that for some reason we treat business as morally different. And we see that in films. This lesson has been driven home a million times in stories where someone goes, it's don't take it personally, it's just business. The other person still takes it personally. Of course they do. It's always personal.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as just business.
It's an interesting point too, because it feels like today is the day that people are the most isolated from each other.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen you in 3 weeks because we kept canceling.
Yeah. It's the most isolated we've been as like a world.
Yeah.
As a world, this is the most isolated we've been.
There's no reason to come together. What are we going to do? I said this to our mutual friend the other day. I said, it feels like when Mike and I first met, we were both he had just gotten out of college. I was still in the middle of college. Mm-hmm. And we met because there was a place around here. There's a mutual hangout spot. Mm-hmm. And we met through other mutual friends who introduced me to that hangout spot. He came home from college. He was there with our mutual friends. And everyone hung out there. People would get together. They would talk about things. Mm-hmm. They would drink coffee. They would play card games, play D&D at this mutual hangout spot. People would come together. Nobody does that anymore. And COVID's part of that, right? But it's also just the world. What is there to do? Where's there to go? Starbucks is getting rid of their seats. They only install the most uncomfortable ones. Barnes & Noble doesn't exist. And if they do, they've gotten rid of the majority of their couches. They don't want you sitting there and treating it like a library. Like the places that you would physically go are gone. Your options is a restaurant or a movie theater. And the movie theaters are being replaced by Netflix. So what do you do? Where do you go? Malls are gone.
Yeah. This is an interesting idea too, because all these things are kind of happening because people are profit driven. But if businesses are no longer profit driven, not only does it feel like it feels like everything might become a library. Mm-hmm. And a lot of jobs will kind of just disappear because a lot of jobs kind of only exist to just keep track of money.
Well, I think that the problem with it is that businesses are too big, and I don't want to. Again, I don't mean that in sort of like an anti-corporate way.
Yeah.
I just mean that the way that mom and pop view their store, and I don't just. I'm not saying mom and pop shops are perfect. They're
Yeah.
not. I
Yeah.
mean, when individuals run place, you get individuals, and some individuals suck. But the idea is Starbucks moves based off of some guy in the Seattle office looking at a spreadsheet. Every decision is based off of that, right? Whereas when there's like a mom and pop coffee shop, their moves are based off of their customers that they see, right? Actually, there's a perfect example. The hobby shop around here, Huzzah, right? I'm going to dox us, even though we've talked about where we live. That is a mom and pop shop, and it started out as a small place, but it had, for one, the few tables they had were free. Unlike the other hobby shop that went out of business, you didn't rent a table; you could just show up. And they did little things. They had a little fridge where they'd sell Cokes, and they had, and they had like little things where it's like, oh, you made a purchase here, you get a stamp, and if you get them all, you get a free Coke. Just shit like that. And they'd sell candy. And over time, eventually they're like, oh, we have enough money. We're going to buy the room next door and we're just going to put tables. We're going to move the like 3 tables we have here over there. This is all going to be retail. And this is going to be a free to use table space. And then eventually they're like, wow, this is working out really well. We're making a lot of money. We're going to buy the room behind us and we're going to turn that entirely into a wargaming room. So now this hobby shop, and now they have and then they were like, well, we've got so many people hanging out here. Let's convert this into a kitchen and we're going to sell beer and hot dogs. So you can buy like shit food. It's like pizza, beer, and hot dogs.
Yeah.
But it's like a little window where you can buy sodas, beer, hot dogs, whatever. And it's become a hangout spot. It's a mom and pop shop. And it grew from the beginning around one central idea, which is this is what our family does. And so we need to make enough money to continue doing this. And so every decision they made, every decision, he spilled some of his water. It's okay. It didn't get everywhere.
Yeah.
Every decision he made was based off of perpetuating that business, and those decisions were beneficial to the customer. Customers want a war game. They only had a couple wargaming tables. Well, we want to host tournaments, so we need a room dedicated to wargaming. Well, people like to play Magic. They like to play D&D. Well, we need a space for that. Okay, we got a room for that, right? Well, people hang out here for hours and they get hungry, but there's not a lot of restaurants right next to us. You were always allowed to bring food in. Well, let's just sell some cheap food. Sure, they probably make a little profit off of the hot dogs, but the hot dog money isn't the goal. It's that you're there and you will leave because you're hungry. Now you don't have to.
And you're going to stay there and be happy. And you're going to come back.
You're going to come back.
You're going to come back because this is a group of people that you know, and you're happy to go back because they treat you well.
So then you look at the prices of their products. All of it's based around the tolerances of their customer. How expensive is so expensive that the people who are my customers won't buy it anymore? Yeah. Every decision is, but at the end of the day, they're also not trying to become Huzzah, LLC worldwide. They're just trying to stay in their lane. They did try to open a small branch business. It didn't really work out. They closed that, understandably. And it was an experiment, didn't work. But the idea is like, once you reach a point where your decisions are no longer about self-sustaining, right? Their goals, their decisions are about keeping their business going and feeding themselves. So long as they have a home, they have food, and the business keeps working, they don't feel a need to change unless it's just to the benefit of their customer base. But with big corporations, they're not really concerned about what's happening locally. They don't really care about the customers here, the employees here. All they really care about is the number that's too big. And so that's where we've reached, is that, when you say like, when every business is profit driven, it's like, yes, businesses need profit to exist, but there was a time in history where most businesses were like Huzzah. They were locally owned. They opened with the objective of fulfilling a niche locally, and everything they did was really just to continue doing what they are doing. They weren't really interested in becoming the only butcher shop in Chicago, and you've got opened 30 of them. They just wanted to continue to be the butcher shop for that neighborhood, and that earned them enough money to live their life.
Yeah.
And that works.
It's a business that's very hard to come by because everyone wants to be Amazon.
Everyone wants to be Amazon. Businesses are too big. And I don't say that in a socialist mindset or I am a capitalist. I love money. I have multiple stock trading accounts. I've day traded. I've got tons of money tied up in AI, which I'm totally going to get rid of because I'm just waiting for it to be at the right spot. I love making money because it allows me to sustain my lifestyle. But here's the thing, okay? There's a version of capitalism that works well, and there's a version that breaks. And we have become the version that's going to break because it's broken in the past. We've had multiple. The Great Depression, everything fell apart. The fucking housing crisis, everything fell apart. The dot-com bubble exploding did a lot of damage to a lot of people. The banking crash fucked a lot of people. There's a lot of different events where this same kind of behavior has broken down in a slightly different way. I love making money. I love the idea of individual wealth, but it doesn't work when all of the wealth is pooled by a small place that doesn't want to get rid of it, that wants to control everything. And I remember this has happened before. I believe it was AT&T. I think it was forced by the government to break up.
Oh yeah, it was AT&T.
Yeah, and in doing so, fixed a ton of problems, and everything got better. The real solution to this problem is that all these big companies need to be fucked hard by the government and ripped apart into a million pieces so that they all have to fight again. Because when they're fighting, it's good for everyone else.
But there's also the danger that we get back into this situation where once again a king has come and he is on top of the hill. And
that's all of history. That's every moment in human history.
Yeah.
Humans have existed for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. And you know what's the thing about this? We haven't really changed much. Do you know that they've translated some of the ancient Sumerian wall writings, and it's just shit like Medulla loves Shara, or Grug has a big dick.
Or Grunch was here.
Yes. No, really.
Yeah.
Some of them, ceiling writings.
Oh, yeah.
It just says Thug was here.
Yeah.
Taralf was here. Or Taralf loves Hilda, right? Like, poetry about just someone writing about someone else having a huge cock. Like, it's not, humans are not really any different. We may have newer, I've always thought it was interesting. Do you remember they used to teach us that, like, if you went back in time and played like modern music for someone from like the colonial era, they're like, they'd go insane. Their mind couldn't handle it. I'm like, no, they fucking wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because people have been making noise throughout history.
They would just ask, what the fuck
They'd
are
be
you
like,
making
what
the
is
noise
this?
with?
How are you doing this? How does this little thing make that? That's what they'd ask.
Yeah.
They wouldn't go insane. Maybe during the like Salem witch trials era, maybe they're right. Maybe because people did used to think cameras stole your soul for a little while.
Yeah.
But the reality is that humans are humans, and we have the same fears now that people still think everything steals your soul. In fact, every time people become addicted to something, someone says it's stealing their soul.
Yeah.
Superstition's not gone anywhere. They just, instead of it being a camera, it's Escape from Tarkov. Tell Nikita, he's got my soul and I want it back.
Hell, the situation we're in right now is kind of because of superstition.
Well, yeah, absolutely. A lot of the situations that we are in are because of media. People tell stories. I know I've been doing a lot of talking for the latter half of this, but it's because I got a lot of stories related to this. I have a friend, and this friend sort of encapsulates a lot of people I deal with. If I were to tell you that society should be a utopia, how would you react?
Yeah.
Okay. Most people would hear the word utopia and assume hell. They'd assume giga hell, because so much media has been written by, I guess, depressed people who think that the word utopia doesn't mean what it means. They think instead of it meaning a perfect society where everything is good, they believe it is a flawed society with the illusion of good where everything is secretly bad. So
Yeah.
so now we've raised entire generations of people where you say the word utopia, and they think of flaws. This has happened. I remember when Bernie Sanders was running, I had this debate with people where they're like, I was like, I think every decision we make should be in an attempt to try to create the best version of society. And they go, but that's not going to work. And I go, how do you know? How do you know it's not going to work? Well, because I know. You don't know. You're not an economist. You're an engineer. You're a phone network engineer. You deal with towers. How the fuck do you know?
The 5G speaks to me, man.
Yeah, I'm telling you this because this is who I was debating. I'm sitting there. I'm like, you don't know. Here's the thing. Here are your candidates. Keep it the same. Keep it the same. Keep it the same. Keep it the same. Keep it the same, but racist. Keep it the same, but sexist. And try something new. And if it doesn't work, what do we have to lose?
I'm tired of Mr. Keep It the Same. He's gotten into office so many times. I want.
It's the same guy every time, and it's because people think that if it's too good, then it can't work, and it's like, but should we not still try?
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Does it feel like we have enough of the infrastructure to just try making food just available?
Oh, absolutely. Do you know how much food just gets thrown away?
Yeah, it's like a lot.
Half the produce that is produced gets thrown away because it doesn't look good enough. Because the apple looks like a butt, so they don't sell it. I'll eat the butt apple. I love eating ass. Let's go.
Looks delicious.
Like, I'm just saying, like, this is, we have so much food, but we don't sell it because the people selling it are trying to make a profit, and so they need artificial scarcity.
We have a weird thing where I don't really know what the objective of what we're doing is. Why do we keep the economy going? We keep the economy going for some reason. We keep the economy going despite people dying. It's like the multiple people dying will make it so that despite everyone dying, as long as the economy is good, we're fine.
It's a good question. Remember when diamonds were a big topic? And everyone was like, oh, the millennials aren't buying diamonds. And it's like,
why?
Who cares? I don't give a shit about diamonds. My spouse doesn't give a shit about diamonds. Who gives a shit about diamonds? The diamond industry is fake. Everyone knows it's fake. And yet for some reason, there's like a desire to keep it.
There's only one thing that diamonds are worth using for. It's for digging into the ground.
Yeah, they're great for damaging other objects.
Yeah, but it's like, besides that, the only reason that people would buy them is because of marketing. That's actually the only reason people buy wedding rings is because someone made a very nice commercial about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But everybody knows that. Everybody knows that it's all manufactured, and yet there is like oh no, the diamond industry is dying, and I'm like, okay, who cares? Well, what about those people's jobs? Okay, let me ask you. Let's say for a moment, I do give a shit about Johnny Diamond and his diamond shop where he sells rings for way more than they're really worth. Those diamonds usually also came from like diamond mines where people died digging for them. And I'm just sort of wondering why Johnny Diamond is more valuable than like, I don't know, Oleg Diamond, who is in Africa digging for diamonds and dying. Why is his life less important than Johnny Diamond?
It's fine, because I think he said he's fine in a different language. That's why I'm assuming he's
well. I think he said it before he died.
He screamed it a lot, so I think it's very positive.
It's pretty good. Yeah. No. You get my point, right? Is it's like this industry brings no value except to the people in it. Maybe we don't need it.
And that's actually a good point, because the diamond industry is not only fake, it's also very predatory to a lot of the people who work in it. The same for like chocolate and all of the making shoes and all of these other things, but they still exist because we need shoes.
And they don't have to be. So coffee. Coffee is an insanely predatory industry, but it's only because of mega corporations. I once took a flight. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. If you've made it this far in the video, I'm going to give you the greatest piece of life advice. When you sit next to random people, talk to them. Learn about their life. I was once on a flight home from Boston. I had visited my friend, and I was flying home, And I sat next to this guy, and our flight got delayed. And he's the coolest guy. You know what his last name was? Fireside. That's so cool. That's such a cool last name. And I got a whole story about it because he was like Jewish, and this family had immigrated, and they changed their last name because Jewish last names, weren't very popular, so they made their name Fireside. He's super cool. Such a cool guy. He has a hobby of finding unique manhole covers and like covers for like utilities and taking pictures of them and posting them on the internet. And I follow him. He's really cool. We sat next to each other. And he was like, we're going to be here a while. You hungry? And I was like, a little bit now that we've been here for a while, like way longer than planned. He's like, I got chocolate here. And he gave me chocolate. And it was because it was chocolate from this company, this fair trade company called Exchange that he worked for. It's a co-op, right? So there's no CEOs. There's leaders, but those leaders are elected by the workers, and they only keep their job as long as the workers are happy with them. Co-ops are very interesting. They work really well, by the way. Anyone who thinks co-ops are bullshit, all right? Italy, full of co-ops, it's working really well. Channel 5 News did a video on it. Go watch it. But he told me all about how they screwed over Nestle on purpose because their co-op's goal is to revitalize these industries. So coffee, chocolate. And what they did is they went to South America and they worked with all these farmers to make their crops more sustainable and to increase the cost of their coffee. Because the problem is that Nestle pays less per pound than the cost of producing. But they're so big that these farmers have no one else to sell to. So to just try to survive, even though they're losing money every year, they have to sell to Nestle. So what this company did is they went down and they said, we've got tons of money, billions of dollars. And what we're going to do is we're going to offer you way more money. Don't sell to them, only sell to us unless they offer you more than we're offering you. And they did it. They made it so that Nestle couldn't fulfill their orders because they were buying so much of the product that the prices, supply and demand, forced the mega corporations to pay more, thus becoming profitable, right? But because this is a co-op, they're not profit driven. So they only need to make ends meet, right? So they can keep doing this. They only make enough money to expand their objective of further making the whole economy better. This doesn't really change you or I's experience. Do you know what the difference between like some Dunkin' Donuts coffee house coffee that you buy on the shelf and like some Exchange coffee is? Like $1, $2. You won't really know. If you're an avid coffee drinker, the extra $2 a week is probably not going to kill you. Yeah. Some idiot on the internet, on Twitter, will be like, oh, there's a family out there that's the difference. No, there isn't. There isn't. I'm sorry. That's not true. You can scrounge that out of like change
or maybe water down the coffee. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Water down your coffee a little bit. But like the difference is so minor to you or I, the consumer. But the entire economy of those areas go from impoverished to functioning. These huge companies have too much power because the value of the coffee was so driven down by the fact that no one else would buy it. So you either sold it for garbage value or you didn't sell it all. That is the entire economy of food in a nutshell. Chiquita Banana. Everybody knows that Chiquita Banana did a bunch of really evil shit, literally like Gestapo shit in South America around bananas. So when you ask the question, why don't we just feed everyone? We have it. There's your answer. All the coffee gets bought up by Nestle, and then there's no one else selling it except them. So then people stop producing coffee because they can't sustain their lifestyle.
It's the same with the meat industry. It's Tyson there.
Yep. Oh, yeah. No, individual farmers are getting fucked. They're going to be gone soon because none of them can survive, except guess what?
Tyson.
They're in Italy. All the meat producers, all the milk producers, they're a part of a co-op. And one person can't produce enough milk to be profitable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because they've got like 4 cows, the way the co-op works in Italy, I'm telling you, watch the Channel 5 video on it. It's really good. But the way it works is it's like, I've got 3 cows, I've got 3 cows, I've got 8 cows. Okay, I got 10 cows. We all come together. We all pool our milk from all these cows. We create products and we sell it. And then we divide the profit by the number of contributions. That is profitable enough that the guy with 3 cows is fully sustained off of his 3 cows. And no mega corporations can move in because the co-op and the laws that protect co-ops keep them out. So those rural communities are completely economically viable.
It's nice to see that there's a sort of blueprint that we can look at to see alternatives to whatever this shit is.
Yeah. Italy is huge on co-ops because, you know, they're not a big fan of big, powerful people who do crazy shit.
I wonder why that...
Yeah, I wonder why that is. So the point here, I mean, I've done a lot of ranting here, but my point is that I think there is a future that will work, but these big companies that are kind of becoming an Ouroboros, they got to go.
I don't think they fit in the...
They don't fit in a framework of a functioning world.
Not only that, I don't see a future for them. They don't really have any place to go.
They're driving themselves out of business.
Yeah.
Oh no! None of my customers have money, and I have no products to sell them.
Who are my customers? My friend John, who also is my...
Well, the truth is the AI bubble is going to pop because we've talked about this. I make this joke every time. $5 billion moving in a circle. It doesn't go anywhere. They're all just lending each other money. They're in negatives. They're all technically in debt.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting new money. They're just exchanging money.
And the thing that airports usually do is when they screw up, they ask the government, it's like, hey, bail us out. But I don't think the government's not going to be able to bail this shit out.
I'm going to tell you, my dad, I love my dad. He's really a very smart guy. And I know everybody says that about their families, but my dad really, really is smart. And I always wish that he had been a little bit more of an angry, aggressive person because he could have used his really huge brain to do a lot. And I remember when the banking crisis happened, and he really was able to articulate like the worst thing that can happen is that they bail them out. And it's like, why? And he's like, because the money's not going to go to solve the problem. The money's going to go in people's pockets. And even if it keeps the banks alive, the best thing that could happen right now is that the banks fail because you and me, we don't have enough money for it to matter. The government's going to protect you and I because the insurance on our accounts is bigger than the amount of money we have in the bank. You know, FDIC and and all that. So he's like, so what will really happen is all of the people who made this a problem will fail and they will disappear. And then new things will appear in their place that aren't so fucking poorly structured. And that will solve a lot of problems. And yes, that does mean some big businesses will go under because they'll go on because their money isn't as insured. They have billions in there and they're not going to get it back. Yeah. But that's okay because when a business fails, that just opens a gap in the market. But most average citizens, the normal people, which make up the vast majority of society, they'll still have their money. They will be okay. What did they do? They bailed them out. What happened? They used that money to give bonuses to all of their executives.
Yeah.
And then some of them still failed, and the rest became even worse banks than they were before. And nothing was fixed, but the economy was fucked. So I think he still has the right of it. I think that the best future we have is one where things go bad for a bit so that everything just falls apart.
Yeah.
And then we have no choice but to create something better.
Because the problem is we keep trying to patchwork is like, hey, it's like Band-Aid fix. Hey, use this to make...
We can fix the lead in the food supply. It won't fix all of the other bad things in the food supply, but there's no lead.
It's like we don't let anything go to failure when it really should.
Yeah, I say shut it all down. You know, let it fail. That's the best option. So anyway, we went in a lot of places with this conversation. I did a lot of angry ranting. I've been holding it in. You know, you kept canceling on me and, too much family time. too much family time. So I didn't get a chance to talk to you. So I've been a lot of frustration coming out. But I think that at its core, we're really talking here about the current state of the economy needs to break so that things can be better.
Yeah. This is honestly the most political we've been in a few, like, how many episodes?
Yeah, but I don't really.
It doesn't feel
Well,
like.
it's not politics because it's not party politics. It's
Yeah.
really more about the economic issues because this all stems from the thing that we love, which is our hobby. And our hobby is video games and electronics. And they're fucking with that. They're fucking with my video games.
Yeah, I'm feeling real grunchy about that.
I'm feeling really grunchy about that.
Real grunchy, too, about that.
This is one of the first years where people said, what do you want for Christmas? And I said, please, no electronics. They're too overpriced. Except maybe a Steam Deck. Just putting it out there. But if you made it to the end, I'm going to call you out, Zipper, Bottle, the people who still watch. And if you're a random stranger, say hello. But if you made it to the end, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had your own thoughts about all of this. Nova, looking at you. You usually have thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope, despite all of this, you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays.
Yeah. Make sure you beat that asshole up real good.
Beat the shit out of Santa. Just make the presents come flying out. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, he's hiding some RAM up his asshole or something. I'm sure of it.